Her Story is a fascinating game about piecing together the story of Hannah Smith as she gives interview testimony on 7 different occasions. As you pull clips from a computerized filing system by searching for words spoken in that video, you'll unravel the truth and understand what happened and why. But the game is open-ended and, in a way, open to interpretation. There's no quiz at the end, no video clip that explains everything, no final cutscene, so you're left to puzzle out exactly what happened on your lonesome. If the game left you confused, let us explain what happened. And as we said at the top, this will spoil the game, so this is your last warning to leave the video before you ruin this brilliant indie game for yourself. Okay, go on? Good. Right, Hannah Smith killed her husband, Simon Smith. That much I think anyone could have predicted. What you were probably surprised to learn is that you're not just watching Hannah give testimony, but also a woman who looks exactly like her, called Eve. We think that on June 18th, Eve is being interviewed, but pretending to be Hannah. Then on June 25th, it's Hannah, and on June 27th, Eve is back, again pretending to be Hannah. We think this because we will later learn that Hannah receives a bruise on her face in a fight before any of the interviews take place, but she only has it during the second interview. In the third, it's gone, and Eve touches the wrong side of her face.
I have a really fast metabolism, so stuff like that just comes and goes.
The woman in the third clip also has morning sickness, and we'll soon find out that Eve is the one who is pregnant. On the 30th of June, Hannah is back. We know this because she has no tattoo on her arm, like Eve does in the next session on July 1st. It's hard to tell who is there for the short interview that takes place on July 2nd, but on July 3rd, it's definitely Eve. She fails a lie detector test about her name.
Yes, my name is Hannah Smith. My name? That was the only question I failed. Your lie detector works.
And then fesses up. This interview with Eve in the white shirt is the source of most of the truth about her story, though I guess the caveat is that we don't get Hannah's side of the story on any of this, so we just have to trust what Eve is saying. With that being said, let's go through everything from the girl's birth to this testimony in a whirlwind tour of Hannah and Eve's life. This is her story. First of all, the girls are indeed twins.
When Hannah was born, I was born at the same time. The midwife was there to help. I'd been throttled by the cord, probably wrapped around my neck by Hannah. The midwife told my mother I was dead.
But a midwife called Florence split them up, took Eve in and raised her as her own daughter. Eventually, Hannah and Eve meet.
We must have seen each other before, but there was this instant when we first realised it wasn't a reflection. The reflection was staring back.
But when Florence dies, Eve goes to Hannah's house and lives in Hannah's attic. Throughout their childhood and teenage years, the two girls would swap places. They embrace each other's unique strengths and keep a diary to stay on the same page.
If one of us got hurt, the other one would have to be hurt too. A grazed knee, a bruise. When I lost my tooth first, we had to pull out Hannah's to match.
They also shared boys, but when Hannah meets Simon, she decides she won't share this man with her twin sister.
Hannah insisted I not pretend to be her around Simon, let alone sleep with him. We didn't share him like the others. The rules had changed.
And things get especially complicated when Hannah gets pregnant and moves out of her family house and into Simon's. Eve tries, but she can't get pregnant to match, and she's stuck in the attic of Hannah's parents' house. But then Hannah loses the baby, and doctors say this made her infertile.
I was infertile. Thought I was. They told me I was infertile after the miscarriage because of complications.
That same year in 1984, Hannah's parents die, and Simon and Hannah move into the parents' home. But Eve moves out.
Got a small bed sit. Got my tattoo to mark the occasion. I was singing in a bar in the evenings.
Then one day, she meets Simon at a show.
He saw me singing one of my shows. Pure chance. Not sure I remember what he was even doing there. Afterwards, I had a drink at the bar and he came over and we got talking. I knew who he was. Obviously I knew who he was. But he didn't know who I was. He was fascinated by the likeness.
They sleep together and Eve gets pregnant, but she doesn't tell Simon or Hannah.
I had always thought we were infertile. Both of us. I didn't tell him.
On the twins' birthday, the day of the murder, Eve tells Hannah about her baby.
I told her because I thought she would be happy for us both.
But she lies about the father.
I told her it was one of my boyfriends, someone I had met in the bar.
When Simon comes home that day, he gives Hannah a unique mirror as a birthday present.
He made it himself. It was a special one-off. He made it and decorated it. That's his thing.
Hannah then finally tells Simon about Eve and Eve's pregnancy and says she wants to help her twin sister.
Afterwards, she told Simon about me, told him I was pregnant. She wanted me to move in with them, this sister he didn't know she had.
But
She knew that instant. The look on his face. She knew.
so she kicks him out. Hannah calls up Eve and they fight.
We screamed at each other, argued, cried, we fought. I hit her back, left a bruise. I had my wig on from performing, she tore it off. Eventually, we grew tired of fighting and I left.
Eve goes to Glasgow in her car.
I was driving badly and I hit a taxi. Not a big crash, just paintwork. He made sure I got to the hospital so they could check me out. It was fine. The hospital must have details when I was looked at.
Which makes her say,
That should eliminate me as a suspect. If I was in Glasgow, can't be in two places at once.
more on that in a moment. Back home, we get this.
Her story is that she'd waited for him to come back. She put on my wig, some of my clothes, pretended to be me. He said he wanted to be with me. Then he took out a present. Another mirror. Just like the one he'd given her earlier. That unique present. She went crazy, smashed the mirror. They argued, screamed. He hit her. So she grabbed a piece of the mirror and just swung it round. She cut his throat clean open.
Yikes. So Eve returns home and finds Simon dead.
I walked in, saw Simon. He was on the floor of the living room.
And Hannah is there, covered in blood. The two hide the body, and then the watch.
The watch. That was my touch.
They set the time to when Eve is in Glasgow to make the alibi stick. Eve, pretending to be Hannah, then goes to the police, saying Simon is missing. She returns a few days later and says she found the body.
I went cold all over. I went down there with a torch and went straight to the back, and that's when I saw the bin bags. Pulled them open, saw the body.
But things start to get a bit messy when the police find hairs from Eve's wig.
Could the hairs have come from somewhere else?
And then the police, like you do, suspect Hannah of being two people.
Twins? Really?
Finally, Eve confesses all, as you've seen in the clips above. Eve then asks for a lawyer.
I'd like to speak to a lawyer now. Please. You have no murder weapon. You have nothing. And all these stories we've been telling each other. Just that. Stories.
And then we get the final word on Hannah.
My sister is gone. And she's never coming back.
And that's the story, or at least that's what we hear from Eve. Maybe there's more to it. Perhaps Eve and Hannah aren't different after all, and this is just some maniacal plea to get out of jail. Or maybe Eve murdered Simon and is blaming Hannah. That much is up to you to decide. Let us know your theories in the comments below, but thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed the game.